Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Hope you all are doing well on this Friday. This week has flown by. It's crazy. It's already Friday, but it's been a good week, and I hope you guys have all had a great week yourself. Weather here in Utah sucks. I was hoping to golf this weekend, so maybe tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. But that's beside the point. The BYU football program is continuing to obviously look in the transfer portal to upgrade the roster. I said it for those of you who are everydayers earlier this week that based on conversations I've had, it feels like BYU could bring in a handful of transfer portal candidates that could bolster this roster. And the whole thought is taking the best player or players available and obviously upgrading this program to where it really truly can compete for a Big 12 title this season. Well, a few seasons ago, BYU brought in a wide receiver by the name of Darius Lassiter to BYU. He was playing at Eastern Michigan University and had fairly modest statistics at EMU. He comes to BYU, had a decent first campaign, 29 receptions for 365 yards and 4 touchdowns. Then this past year for BYU, Darius, alongside Chase Roberts, were BYU's 2-star receivers. He had 45 receptions, a career high in receptions, career high in yards, 703. He tied the 4 touchdowns he actually had at Eastern Michigan as well as BYU. So 12 touchdowns across the 3 seasons he played at the Division I level. And yes, he did pursue another season this year, but the NCAA ruled against him, and he is now preparing for his NFL future. Fesi Sitake did a really, really good job scouting a guy like Darius Lassiter and convincing him that BYU is where he could come and thrive. And obviously, there was a lot of work on the side of Darius Lassiter to prove Fesi Sitake as BYU's wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator right with his play on the field. Well, it feels like BYU may be hot on the heels of their next Darius Lassiter. Let me introduce you to TreyShun Hurry. He plays for the San Jose State Spartans, but it was just one season out there in the Bay Area playing for Ken Niumatalolo. Many of you know Coach Ken, but he had a really, really nice season, speaking of TreyShun Hurry, with 28 receptions, 482 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, at San Jose State this past year, he was playing second fiddle to their star wide receiver, and his name all of a sudden escaped me as I was doing this segment. I will pull it up momentarily. He had a monster season. I'm going to get this here. But the thing is, TreyShun Hurry is in a similar mold to Darius Lassiter. So it was Nick Nash. Nick Nash had 104 receptions, 1,382 yards. Justin Lockhart had 53 receptions for 983 yards. And then TreyShun Hurry here was their third leading receiver on the year. So obviously 16 touchdowns to Nash, 5 to Lockhart. That's why Hurry only had the 2 TDs. But at 6'2", 194 pounds, he is about 15 pounds lighter than what BYU listed a guy like Darius Lassiter at. But Darius, when he came to BYU, was right in that 190-pound mark and bulked up during his time as a Cougar. TreyShun Hurry, if you watch his game tape, I watched a decent amount after I saw that he had announced he was offered by BYU, and I came away thinking, hey, Fesi Sitake's tried to recreate what he did just a few seasons ago with Darius Lassiter. Now, they're not the exact same skill set, but I look at TreyShun Hurry and I see so many like indicators of why Fesi Sitake is looking at this kid thinking, all right, we're going to recreate the magic. The other part about this is that Hurry is familiar with the state of Utah. His 2 seasons before going to play at San Jose State University were spent at Weber State University in Ogden, Utah. So he had a pretty good, what would be his redshirt freshman year at Weber, 29 receptions, 384 yards, and 1 touchdown. He then decided to enter the transfer portal. And the biggest thing you like to see of guys jumping from the FCS to the FBS level is they can prove they can produce at the level they jump to. He actually had 1 less reception, but more yardage at San Jose State. And that proved that he could make the leap from the FCS level to the FBS level. And now he's back in the portal, and BYU is betting on that continued progression for him as a redshirt sophomore. He would come into BYU with 2 years of eligibility remaining. And I think that Fesi Sitake looks at this and says, hey, if this kid can make that leap from the FCS to the G5 level, what kind of leap could he make in our offense and with us coaching up and the skill development that we have shown that we're capable of with guys like Darius Lassiter? They've got a very, very compelling pitch for a guy like Hurry here as they can say, hey, remember that guy Darius Lassiter that broke out for us last year? Well, you're following a similar career trajectory to him, and we believe that with your 2 years that you could use here at BYU, you maybe could surpass him in that respect. Now, That will require Hurry to come in and show that, yes, his continued path of progression will take that. But I think this is a really, really interesting story to track here because it sure looks like it could be a tailor-made fit for what BYU is looking for in the transfer portal. Because I also said it earlier this week, BYU is not too keen on bringing in one-year transfers right now. They don't want graduate transfers coming into this program and spending just 1 year in the program. They want multi-year guys, at least 2, maybe 3, or heck, even 4 years that they can be a part of this program. And as I mentioned, go through the development that BYU has proven to have on their side, have the coaching that has been very good across the board for BYU. I think Kalani Sitake has assembled a really, really fine staff. And the nice part is his staff, they seem to operate in lockstep with one another. Now, they all have their own opinions and ideas on how things go about things because they coach different positions. But the whole goal is there's a one mindset inside the BYU football program, and that is to win a Big 12 title, to play in a college football playoff, to have that door open to them to win a national title once again after 40 plus years, it feels like, of being shut out of it. It wasn't 40, but you get my drift. It was almost 40 years after they won that title in 84. BYU is knocking on the door here. And a guy like TreyShun Hurry, if he understands what BYU is trying to do, and I think gets a feel for what the Cougars are building, I think he'd be crazy not to consider playing for the BYU football program because, as I mentioned, they've got a very, very compelling pitch for him. Yes, he would have to compete against other elite receivers. JoJo Phillips is out there. A guy like Keelan Marion had an incredible spring. Keelan's an All-American kick returner, but showed during spring ball that's not his only skill set. He showed that he's a far more refined receiver, at least in spring, than I had seen in the previous 2 seasons he's played at BYU to this point. Parker Kingston, Cody Hagan, Tei Nakua, Dominique McKenzie. They're all young bucks who are chomping at the bit to take the next leap, and all of them were really talented, speedy wide receivers in the high school ranks when they played here in the state of Utah. So TreyShun Hurry is not going to come in with the expectation that he's going to start because I don't believe for a second that Fesi Sitake, Kalani Sitake, Aaron Roderick is BYU's offensive coordinator, who probably have a conversation or two here with Hurry. I don't think a single one of them are going to guarantee him that he'll be a starter. And in fact, it's probably quite the opposite. Kalani's been very blunt about the fact that he wants a program that has guys who come in who don't have a sense of entitlement. They come in and they earn what they are given. And TreyShun Hurry, I think he understands that. At least I don't know the kid personally, but looking at him betting on himself, jumping from Weber to San Jose State, and maybe taking the leap from the G5 level with the Spartans of San Jose State to the BYU Cougars in the Power 4 ranks. Hey, I think that this is a kid who's got confidence in himself, and that confidence can carry you a long way. So it's a name to file away here in the portal for BYU is TreyShun Hurry, and he's not the only one. BYU will be looking, as I said, I think the most they could take out of the portal is maybe 10 guys, but they're not forced to do that. They want to take the best players available. And in this circumstance, I think Fesi Sitake sees a lot of what he saw in Darius Lassiter and thinks that he can pull that out of TreyShun Hurry. And if lightning strikes twice, be a pretty cool story for BYU and show that Fesi Sitake, he's got an incredibly keen eye for talent and doing a lot with said talent as well.